Hi, my name is Steve Martile. Happy New Year. In this video today, I'm going to be talking about why silence is important for us and why it's important for us moving into this new year, regardless if you're watching this in January or 2-3 years from now. The reason silence is important, there's so many reasons. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the most relevant reasons, and then I'm going to go to the what will be for most people less relevant, but what I find more fascinating and more creative ways that silence can help us improve our lives but also realize our potential. So I'm going to start with what I believe what is going to be the most relevant reason why we want silence, and that's because silence gives us spaciousness. Okay, what do I mean? So with the internet and the way it's evolved over the years and social platforms and technology, we're bombarded with so much information each day that it can be overwhelming. We can feel overwhelmed. We can feel stressed. We can even feel confused about what to do because we feel overloaded with information. And what happens is that naturally a human being has a certain capacity for information. Our physical minds can only process so much at a time. And when we're getting bombarded with too much information, what happens is obviously we get stressed, we get overloaded. There's an entire industry, mental health, that's been created from this overload of information. So for many of us, the number one reason, if we've never done any sort of yoga or meditation, that silence is important for us is because we need less information, not more. We need less things being bombarded at us, not more. So what silence can do, if you're deep within a meditation or deep within a yoga practice or deep within nature in woods, walking, hiking, is that it becomes a mini vacation from your thoughts. It becomes a way to ground your energy so that you're not so much caught up in the self-talk and the noisiness of the monkey mind. It can help us improve clarity and help us listen. I'll give you a really good example. So 2 days ago I called in. We're bringing our Jeep Grand Cherokee in to get serviced, and the gentleman who's basically booking the appointment with me, he goes, "What's your phone number?" So I tell him my phone number. This is the phone number. We talk a bit more. What else do I want him to get serviced on the vehicle? I wanted to look at the wipers, change the oil, that sort of thing. And then literally like 3 minutes later, he goes, "What's your number?" Not "what's your number" again, but "what's your number?" And I'm like, I just told him my number, I thought to myself, but I'll give it to him again. I'm being polite and kind. So I give him the number. And I thought, why do people do that? Why do they are not in the moment? Why don't they hear? Why don't they really listen? It's because the voice in their head has got them distracted from what's happening on the outside. So what silence can do is it can give you a vacation from that voice in your head. Like you say, I need a vacation. I need to go on a vacation. I need to get away. And you get away, but the voice goes with you on the vacation. And you might have a good vacation because you're being stimulated by the external world in a very colorful and new way, but the voice still is there. So then when you come back or you go back to work or you get back in your routine, you feel the same way than when you left. So the vacation was nice, but then you come back and you feel the exact same way. And the question you want to ask yourself is why? It's because you're carrying that voice, that information with you wherever you go, and it becomes baggage, and it can feel heavy, and it can make you stressed. So yes, we're getting a lot of information bombarded, but then what we're doing is we're combating that information with our self-talk. And what silence does is it helps us get to a place where we can have no thoughts, although that does take practice and a certain level of mastery. But what it can do is you can get to a place where you can at least just notice your thoughts and not have to be the product of your thoughts. So the reason that this becomes important is because if you are just a product of your thoughts, then you are just unconsciously doing what you've always done. If you are aware of your thoughts and you come to a point where you're just noticing the thoughts in a meditation, then you realize that you are not your thoughts. And those thoughts might not even be yours. It could have been your boss that said something over and over a few months, and then you picked onto it and latched onto it, right? Like a parrot, and started saying it. It could be a friend or a colleague that would text you something and you started using it. And we unconsciously hold on to these patterns. And some of them can be very fun and very light, but some of them can be patterns that don't necessarily empower us. So what silence does is it gets to a place where you feel spaciousness, where you feel expanded. And when you feel spaciousness, you feel a form of exploration and traveling into the unknown, because it allows you to disconnect from this monkey mind. And when you travel into the unknown, I want you to think of planning a vacation. You're going to take 5 weeks to go to Europe this summer, but you have no plans. You just know where you're going to land and you know when you're going to depart. The 5 weeks in between is completely a mystery. That's what silence does. You go into the mystery, because for most of us, we've been thinking the same thoughts that we thought before. 96 to 98% of the thoughts we have today are the same ones we had yesterday, and the same ones we had before that, and before that, and before that, and before that. It's completely unconscious. So if you get to a point where you really want to see a change in your life, and for the new year, that's what a lot of people look forward to, is like making changes. If you still have the same thoughts that you had yesterday, last month, last year, and you expect to make a change, then good luck, because you're going to have a lot of resistance internally to do it because you haven't changed the thoughts. Well, why is that important? Because a thought is a frequency of vibration. In fact, it's a reality, and you can't experience anything new, a new reality, unless you align with the thoughts of that reality, which means, again, making changes to the self-talk inside. So silence is important because it becomes a vehicle for transformation internally that then manifests and shows up in physical form on the outside, because you realize that the thoughts that you're having as you're observing them, as you're noticing them, just like planes flying by, there's another thought, there's another thought. It's just a stream of consciousness. You're the observer. The real you is noticing these thoughts. There's another, there's a bird, there's a cloud, there's a blue sky. Those are just thoughts, and more thoughts, and more thoughts, and you're just noticing, and you're just watching them, and they're separate from you, and they're just moving along. You're not attached, latched onto any one of them. You're just watching them come into your awareness, and then they disappear. You're watching another one come in, and then it disappears. You watch another one come in, and then it disappears. Well, what happens is you get into this place where you become the observer to your thoughts. Well, now you have real choice for the first time in your life, because the thoughts are not controlling you. You can control the thoughts. You become aware that the thoughts are just like objects in your environment, like a cloud or a plane or a bird flying by or a baseball being thrown. You're just like, oh, those are just objects. Those thoughts are just objects, and you're just noticing, and you're just watching them, and you're just being the observer, which is the real you. And when you get into that place of noticing and watching, then you have power to choose the ones that you want. You're like, I like that one. And then you bring it into your consciousness, and then you focus on it, you contemplate it, and you amplify it. That's real choice. And that's why silence can be a vehicle to massive transformation, because it allows you to pick thoughts which then equal picking a new reality. The third thing I'll bring up about why silence is important for us is that for many of us during this, I'll say, chaotic yet very exciting time on the planet, is that it helps you bring awareness to your shadows. Well, what do I mean by that? It helps you bring awareness to unconscious patterns or limiting beliefs or unconscious stories that you've been telling yourself for 40 years, or unconscious biases that you have, or limiting ways that you think. And by bringing awareness to the shadows, it's like if you imagine a room where the lights are off and it's completely pitch dark, and then you turn on the light in the room and you bring awareness to the shadows. Well, what happens is you see what's there for the first time. And once you see it, then you can decide what you want to do with it. But a lot of cases, just bringing the light to that pain that you have, or that chaotic memory, or that torn relationship, what it will do is it will heal just from the light and awareness you bring to it. So that again is where the value of silence comes in, because the only way that you can do shadow work is by getting to a place of being the observer and being silent and noticing those thoughts and then deciding what you want to do with them, or maybe just noticing, giving them lots of love and attention, and then that they go away completely on their own. So again, patterns change, unconsciousness change, and the way to think of this is that if you're doing shadow work specifically, is that if you have a glass of like some purple liquid, grape juice, and you have water on the other side, okay? And the water is the light and the grape juice is the darkness. Over time, as you continue to notice these shadows that you have, what you're doing is it's like adding the water, the light, to this grape purple liquid juice. And as you keep adding more and more water, light, to the darkness, what happens, it eventually dilutes the color, it gets less strong, it has less a hold on you, and it becomes less an influence in your life. Because what happens is you keep pouring that light, the water, into that purple liquid juice, is that it keeps diluting to a point where it becomes completely light, and then you don't have to deal with that shadow anymore because it's completely gone. So again, the power and why it's important for us to be in a state of silence is because, number one, it helps us de-stress and re-energize by getting into this state of spaciousness where we're just noticing our thoughts. Okay, so that's number one. It allows us to decompress from all the compression of all the information we be getting by not getting more information, but getting less. Because what happens is if you get less information and you get to a state where you're not feeling bombarded by information, you're feeling less stressful, you're feeling more of a state of at ease, and you're feeling more peaceful, what happens is all of a sudden you become a cup that can be filled with more information, and you become such a good receiver of new information and new ideas. That's how insight and synchronicity happens, is when you are empty. And so silence allows us to empty out the past so we can make room for the new. And then number two, like I said, is that becomes a vehicle for transformation, so you can make real choices as opposed to going on default. And then number three, it helps you bring awareness to shadows. It helps you bring awareness to limiting beliefs or disempowering stories that you've been telling yourself for years or decades. And all of these things add to this vehicle of transformation, which allows you to add more light to the darkness so that eventually you don't have that darkness and those shadows to deal with, and so that you feel like an amplified and what I call the new human. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. If you're a subscriber, thanks for being a subscriber. Please give me a thumbs up and share this if someone could benefit from it. And if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. Thanks again for watching and listening. My name's Steve, and I'll see you next time.